Hello and welcome to this episode of Conversations with Atlanta's Movers and Shakers. I am your host, Mandisa Johnson. Today we are having a conversation with the accomplished owner and trainer at Words in Motion Acting Studio, host and producer of Kelly Let me start that over again. I knew that was
I
going to
do that all the time. I do that all the time.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Conversations with Atlanta's Movers and Shakers. I am your host, Mandisa Johnson. Today, we are having a conversation with the accomplished owner and trainer at Words in Motion Acting Studio, host and producer of Kelly Talk Show Atlanta, and president of the nonprofit organization, the Georgia Artist Initiative, Kelly Young-Silva. With over 2 decades of experience, Kelly has been a key contributor to numerous industry programs and helped establish industry standards. She is committed to supporting newcomers and fostering growth within the Atlanta film industry. Hi, Kelly. How are you
Hello.
today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us. So we
Absolutely.
So we gave you a brief bio, but could you share a little bit more about who you are and what you do in the Atlanta film and TV community?
So my passion has always I was one of those that didn't get to move to LA after graduating from high school. But I did stay very involved in theater. I was vice president of my local theater for about 13 years. We developed shows. And what was unique about us, we are in Douglas County, and we were out of 20 surrounding counties, we were the only one that didn't have a performing arts center.
Wow.
So I spent years as a liaison between the arts and in Douglas County trying to get a performing arts building, which never happened. They do have a really great cultural arts center, but so in 2012, I opened up my own studio, and I really thought that I would. I was just wanting to build something for kids. Through the arts, through performing arts, I tell people that it saved my life 1,000 times. Every 10 years, you go through kind of a different life. Your life
Mhm.
changes, you find yourself in holes, and it's always been the performing arts that have been a focus, to keep myself out of trouble, to have something to focus on, have something that was mine. And I I love it so much that if you get me talking about it too much, I'll seriously get emotional about it.
Oh, wow.
But so I just knew, I was the third studio, as far as I know, in Georgia to open acting studio. Um, and I didn't really think that I was opening to support industry. Um, I opened for my community.
Mhm.
And at that time, the incentives hit here in Atlanta. So casting directors and agents found out that I was working with kids, and they started reaching out to me asking if I had kids that were interested in auditioning for roles. And then we got connected to agents. And so it is one of those things about timing. I just landed at a time, decided to do something at a time. It still took about 5 years to really get my business off the ground, because I am on the outsides of Atlanta, supporting Atlanta. But the cool thing is now the largest studio in the world is opening right in
Mhm.
Douglas County, which is
Right.
Great Point Studios. It's Lionsgate is behind it. Tyler Perry. I believe that it's Tyler Perry's old. He bought a bunch of land in Douglas County, and so he will be using it for filming too, to my understanding. So that's exciting. That's exciting for us. During this time, we've been open about 12 years. We've been able to book roles everywhere from Disney to Lifetime, HBO Max, lead roles in theaters that have gone into theaters, TV series, Tyler Perry. I mean, national commercials. So, so yeah, it's been just exciting to see your dreams come true. I
Mhm.
decided to coach in the beginning. When the industry first landed here, you know, I had already opened my studio, so I focused really heavily on coaching. Now I went back to acting, and I'm signed with an agent, and I do audition too. I found that very necessary after a while. I was like, I can't keep coaching these people and not know
Right.
what auditioning is like. And so I do actively seek roles for myself, but my main focus is really my studio and its growth.
Wow. Yeah, that is exciting.
Yeah. So we started a show. It was That's an interesting story. And my husband and I had gotten pregnant, and we lost the baby into the 5th month. We actually delivered. She just wasn't healthy. She had what is called trisomy 18, and you coming from a child with Down syndrome, like we were hoping for Down syndrome, you know, like we were, and it just was super bad. So at 5 months, we forced labor and gave birth, and that was a really neat experience because we got to spend the night with the baby, and
Wow.
just really neat. But after that, you know, after you kind of have something tragic happen in your life, you kind of want to feed the world. I don't know why, but you're
Right.
like, I want to bond with people. I want to talk about things. And so we started Kelly Talk Show Atlanta. And at first I thought that I was going to talk about, you know, subjects like that. And my
Mhm.
husband just wasn't really comfortable with it. He's a director, and because I can get, you know, I'm a talker. I can get into any subject. It doesn't bother me. He's a little more private. He's like, you can't give away your whole life. Um, and so because of having an acting studio, we began to focus more on we can still talk about those subjects, but it needs to be somebody who's wrote a book about it, or has a film about it, or some kind of artistry behind it. So we didn't run the show much last year. He's gotten so busy. He is a 9-time Emmy Award winner and works
Wow.
for Mundo Now, which is a Hispanic platform. He does commercials for all sorts of brands. And so he's just gotten so busy that we haven't really been able to do it. So it's fun to sit here and be on your show.
Hey. Hey. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I love learning about people and, more than what was researched and you all sharing that. So, can you take us on your journey of how you started to where you are today?
Well, I think I probably started. I mean, as far as performing arts, I started acting in about the 3rd grade, and it just never stopped, even though I tried to get it to stop many times. I always say I have a love and a hate with it, which is probably why I got into doing a studio, because you just get burnt out after a
Mhm.
little while. So I did in my early 20s, I had kids. And then I got back into theater. You know, they were still super young, and did about 10 years of back-to-back shows. And that was a period where like every show ended and you're like, I need a break. I need a break. I need a break. And then
Right.
somebody gives you a script and you go, ah, and you're back into it again. And so I 2012, I went through a job change, and I ended up, somebody asked me to teach a summer camp. And
Mhm.
I left that summer camp um, talking about special needs. There was a kid in the class that was special needs. And I kept thinking, like, during the camp, like, where am I going to put him? What can I get him to do? I don't want the other kids to ostracize him, because they were already like starting to make comments. And then I figured out that he could write. And so we made
Wow.
him the writer. We had to come up with our own little play. And so he wrote the whole thing. And at the end of the camp, he got an award. And then I asked the other students in front of everybody, like, what would have happened if we didn't have Noah? And all the kids were like, we wouldn't have had a play. And, he became the
Wow.
hero. And I was like, you know what? I can make a living out of this, really changing people's lives, giving, because theater kids tend to be, even though we're geared towards film and TV, normally they'll start with theater somewhere, and those tend to be the quirky kids. And I love the quirky kids, and I love building self-esteem, and I love like giving them the freedom to be different, because it is those people that typically book the roles.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I started off there. The film industry had first landed here in Atlanta, and from there we've been part of programs. We ran a program called Kids Connect Atlanta, where we brought casting directors and agents together, and we did that with the actor scene. My friend had a acting studio called Blank Stage, and there were a couple other studios. We kind of competing against each other. So it was kind of fun for everybody. And then I know we've been a part of setting standards as far as like self-taping, because Atlanta was the first to start self-taping. I can remember the first self-tape that we did, not really knowing how to do it. And then little by little, everybody was setting standards for it. And so when I train, I really understand the roots of Atlanta. I really understand the history of Atlanta. So all that is embedded into my students' training.
Wow, what an amazing journey. And I'm one of the quirky kids, quirky kids. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So you shared about how you started in the 3rd grade. So did your parents, of course, recognize your love of the arts? And if so, how did they nurse your gift to facilitate growth?
No, they did not recognize it at all.
Wow.
They just let me do things. I think it was a very different time there. I remember wanting to sign up for gymnastics or dance, and my mom would be like, "Go make a dance up with your friends. I'm not paying for that." They're not. Our parents are not us. We really nurture our kids. Our parents were like, "Figure it out." No, I think that I just had an outgoing personality. And so naturally, when somebody is going to cast a play, like teachers, they're going to look for the outgoing personality. So you just kind of find yourself in that space. And so when it came to performing, I was just normally always picked. In high school, I had a really hard time because I am dyslexic. So I had a really hard time keeping up with grades. We didn't know I was dyslexic at the time.
Okay.
I just, every dyslexic person that doesn't know they're dyslexic, they're just like, something's wrong here. I can't read like the other kids. So I had a really hard time through school. I mostly performed in outside programs like the Cobb Children's Theater, which I think is still around. It's a great program. In my high school, we did win competition every year. So I did get to be a part of the competitions, and I learned from a lady named Carolyn Hansard, and she was a beast. Like when she's talking about we're gonna win. And Cobb Children's Theater was a lot like that too. It was I don't remember the name of the lady that ran that, but she was very eccentric, and there just was no laziness. There was no so I think all of that also has helped me in my journey, especially with kids, because I did start as a child, and knowing that they can do more than off, a lot of times they'll try to cop out of things, and you just have to go, no, you can do this.
Yeah.
It's like playing a sport or anything else. Like you just have to get them to rise up to that place.
Right. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. We're going to take a break, but we'll be right back.
Damn, dude, you really didn't tell anyone you were leaving LA?
I know, man. I was really just going through a lot those last few months.
No, I feel you. LA's a tough city.
It's no joke. You go out there with such high hopes and dreams, and then
reality hits.
Right. honestly, man, I just want to start new. Like a clean slate. Forget about all that drama in the past, you know?
Yo, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So, starting new. Hey, what does that mean?
I think it's time to chase my dreams.
Welcome back to Conversations with Atlanta's Movers and Shakers. I am your host, Mandisa Johnson. Today we are having a conversation with the accomplished owner and trainer at Words in Motion Acting Studio, host and producer of the Kelly Talk Show Atlanta, and president of the nonprofit organization Georgia Artists Initiative, Kelly Young-Silva. You are the creator, host, and producer for the Kelly Talk Show Atlanta, a highly popular show that showcases and educates artists who have transformed their passion for art into a successful career. Can you talk to us about how that came about? Well, you did share a little bit about how it came about, but and can you share with us some of the artists you've interviewed?
So it was really important to me as an acting studio to one thing that I found because Atlanta was so new in we had a lot of theater experience, but most people didn't have a lot of experience in the business of.
Mhm.
And I still get this mindset because I work a lot with new actors, but now I can rise them up a lot faster to a better mindset. But people really thought that you came to acting classes a couple of times and then you got an agent, you became famous. And then there's people like me who I've done this my whole life, with or without pay, with or without an agent. It is my heart and my soul. So I couldn't relate to those people because I understand that at some point, if you get to a certain level, fame's going to go with that, but that's never been my goal. So I wanted to have artists on that talked about the hardships of becoming a business, because there's a difference between your passion and doing something because you love it and then making it a business, because a lot of those passions become work. And people would say to me a lot, well, you're so lucky you get to live your passion. And I would say, well, my passion feels like a lot of work. I don't know.
Yeah.
So when we really got into the core of Kelly Talk Show and figured out what we were going to do, that really was the focus, is to educate people, listeners. We were the first show in Atlanta like that to start, and we were on multi cameras. My husband, I told him I wanted to do this, and he purchased the equipment that went along, and a lot went into that show. It was very expensive, and we never charged anybody. We never sought to even get sponsors. We've just always done it as kind of like a tithing to our community.
Right.
And yeah, so people I've had on the show, most are local to Atlanta. We do have some LA talent on there that have worked in Atlanta. But of course, the Rick Wrights, who was the president of SAG-AFTRA at the time, he's been on. Clayton Landy, who is now the president of SAG-AFTRA, he's been on a few times. Talents that have gone on to book roles, and Charles Green being one. We have a movie called Hunting Souls that's out on platforms right now, and a lot of the talent on there are people who have also been on my show at some point, but they're people who started out just like us when the Atlanta film industry kind of started and they were like, hey, I want to do this. And, now they're booking roles all over the place. So Charles has been in everything from Stranger Things to, I think he's been on Ozark. I think he's been in a lot of things. You just have to go through his IMDb. David Alexander, he's another that has done really well in the Atlanta area. No like super movie stars. They're mostly, local. We're focused on what's going on here in Atlanta. A lot of them are, some of them are even my students who have booked things that are pretty incredible, because I want to keep a record of that. And just people who have helped Atlanta grow. Some of the casting directors. I couldn't get any talent agent. I don't think I had any talent agents on there. Agents don't love being in front of the camera. I would try. I would be like,
oh yeah, no, I think you're signed with Carol.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Carol would do it though. She would.
I have emailed her about an interview, and I know she's busy, so I was just like, okay. But yeah, there's certain like agents and even like producers that I've wanted to interview, and it's just like more, they don't want to be in front of the camera. So you're
But
yeah.
Carol will. It's just getting her in the right time.
Yes.
And if she like, but she just gets busy. So like all agents, she just gets so busy.
Oh yeah. And I'm not offended at all by that, because I'm like, that means you're getting your actors stuff. So yeah, I'm like, okay, I'll email you at another time.
Yeah.
But you said something about knowing the business of entertainment, and I feel like that's very important, and I love that you do that. That's something that we try to do as well, getting people to know that it's more than being in front of the camera. It's more of, knowing what you sign your name to on a contract, knowing that, if you don't understand something when you read it, ask, because you don't want to be legally bound to something because your name is on there. So I feel like that's really important. I feel like not Words in Motion, but your talk show is similar to kind of like what we do, where it's more like the local people, actors, character designers, animators, people that other people can learn from in the industry, because I feel like it's really important. And I feel like, the industry is growing so much here. There's things that you need to know. So the people that I interview, they have that knowledge and they can share their wisdom and advice. So yeah.
And it's really important to put those components together, because we've done that too. Like we've even had sound guys on, DPs. It's really important. Not too long ago, my husband is a director, and I am a producer, so I'm around filmmaking all the time. And one of my students said, this was a brand new green actor, and he said, is an adult, but he said, I was talking to somebody else and they were saying, because I talk a lot about the camera. I talk a lot about how the camera moves, and he's like, and they tell me that I don't need to worry about the camera. And I'm like, you need to worry about, you need to know all the components, because the more that you understand what is going on with you on set, it's going to release that tension from you, and you're not going to feel so so stiff. So all those components, it's important for me to know what the script writer is there doing. It's important for me to know what an AD is, what a DP is, what all the terminology if I'm going to work in this industry. So one thing that we do teach that other studios, they do teach it, but they normally do it on consultations. We make it part of our studio, is the business of acting. And I found that very important, because if I just taught acting, I want to be in this business. So if I just taught acting, and I attract a lot of new actors that don't know the business, if I don't teach them that, they can't really get to a place that they want to be. So I've just kind of incorporated that into my teaching over the years. So I kind of become their first manager, not a manager. I'm not paid for it, or just helping them. Hey, what is my next step? What do I need to do? And I don't do contracting. I don't go over people's contracts. I'm not qualified to do that, but I will tell them, go to this person, do this. So, and then just trying to keep people away from scams, because scams are so prevalent and get even more, as the industry tends to grow. But with today's technology, it's harder for them because people call them out. It's harder to stay secret when you're scamming somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. So you shared a little bit about Words in Motion Actor Studio. Can you share with our readers and viewers who may want to pursue film and TV how to become involved?
So most of your Atlanta studios, mine included, if they are reputable studios, they will let you audit a class for free. What that means is you're coming in and seeing the value of what you have, because a real trainer wants to be with people. They don't want to scam you. They don't want you there for just your money. I'm saying that because then I'm thinking about other people who are training, but they, anyway.
I know what you're trying to say.
A true trainer that really cares about the welfare of its students is not going to be money motivated. That doesn't mean that you're not going to pay for classes, but they're not going to let that control their heart. If they think they can't train you, they will let you know, and they will tell you that you need to go elsewhere because it's not benefiting you and it's not benefiting them. So it's always like with everything else, with an agent or whatever, it's trying to find your relationship that feels good to you. So you can audit a class for free. That gives you an opportunity to see what's going on in the studio, what your homework would be like, what your investment might be like as far as time, and then we require a 3 months. You have to be locked in at least for 3 months, because I don't feel like I can even get to know you within 3 months. And then from there, you're month to month. But, being with an agent is, our goal is, if you're a new actor, is to get you to the point where we can attract an agent, hopefully. And, or I can, try to refer you out if I feel like that they could use you on their roster. And but the agent is going, if an agent takes on a developmental actor, which means an actor that is still kind of green, they're willing to grow with that actor, and that actor has to stay in training. So I find that was really hard for people to get to understand, because this is a lifestyle. This is a life investment that we're doing. Actors spend their life fighting for that one role that they feel proud of, that soothes their soul. And so this is not a fly by night. You might be able to book something that they just needed your look. They needed you to match, you're playing a father of somebody. You looked like, so you can book on different things, but to stay in, people want you to be training. They want you to be serious about it. They want to know that this is what you do. So that's a hard part for people, is that it's like going to the gym. And it is more important, I think, for, in theater, you're going to get 3 months practice, at least normally 3 months practice before you hit stage. In film and TV, you are to come that day with all the things that theater actor would have done in that 3 months. So sometimes you can have a week to get in that place. Sometimes you can have 2 days. Sometimes, it's a little while longer, but you got to know how to move, and you got to be confident in being in that space. So, if you're not training, we're human beings. We can be really confident in our art in 1 minute, and then have something psychological that kind of tears us down, and we can be babies again. Not that we can't grow up faster because we already have the skill, but we're always working through our human self to put ourselves in this terribly vulnerable place as another human being, and being believable in that place is it can be really vulnerable. The things that we put ourselves through, I just say the actors, we must love torture because because we'll let somebody look us in the eye and be like, no kid, you don't have it. Yeah, and being able to withstand that criticism, because if you do reach any kind of accolades, you better believe that people are going to be talking about you, and you've got to have a strong core. So that's the reason I started with kids. I have adults too, but it was really about their core. Like, I'm like, if I can get kids to where their core is so strong that they can walk through this criticism, they can walk through anything. So that was really my focus, even more than getting them to be on TV or whatever, is to build their core so strong that nobody can damage that. I think that's what we all seek.
Yeah, that's good. I like that, because people can be critical, like and people can have easier access to do it now, social media, which, yeah, sometimes, some days I'm just like, phew.
And anytime you put yourself out there, even with Kelly Talk Show, when we first started it, we were doing it. We always have done it out in my studio, which is it's a small space. And so we would have to put up, and then we would have to take down in order to have classes. So it was like a 2-hour, it's like a 2-hour setup just to set it up. And then we do multiple sessions a day. So we would interview like 10 people. I just changed.
Oh, wow.
And then we move on. And it was funny, like the first time people were criticizing my hair, because I am not a person that really fixes up. I'm me. They were criticizing the way we put the Kelly in the back. They're like, you need to hang that. I'm like, we can't hang it. This is my acting studio. And then I finally just got to where, hey guys, if y'all want to come help instead of criticize,
right?
Nobody like showed up to help. But I mean, I kind of go through that. I'm like, I don't know. I have a talk show. Do y'all have a talk show?
Right. Yeah.
I'm trying my best. And even things like when you're doing something on a smaller level, like all of that, my husband and I were doing ourselves. I'm dyslexic. He's from South America. So together, like, as far as like getting our spelling right on things, we're missing things all the time. We put one, actually the episode of Charles Green we put up, it said, you're never too old. And I think we did TO instead of TOO, and people just ate us up. And I was like,
why not just send like a private message or something? I don't
well,
think
we couldn't change it at that point. It already went out. So
right. Well, I don't think sometimes it's not, my husband told me this because I had to learn this. Sometimes it's not how you look in your presentation. It's really about the content. Is it good content? And I think that's really, to me, what matters. Like, you're putting out good content, then, I don't know, people can be a little too critical sometimes.
And even that, as a host, that's still vulnerable, because you're interviewing sometimes people that have more knowledge than you, or they have less knowledge than you, and you're trying to connect with that, and you're learning in the process also. We're always learners. And that's what I found through hosting, is that it was just people were coming with different experiences and different knowledge that was different than mine. And sometimes that's kind of vulnerable, because you can have, I had a lot of the acting coaches on that I hold to esteem, and I would get nervous around them.
oh yeah. No, it's almost like that imposter syndrome that a lot of people in the industry, because I know I deal with it.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I do. I'm like, people reach out to me. I'm like, me? Like, but yeah. So we're going to take a break, but we'll be right back. to Conversations with Atlanta's Movers and Shakers. I am your host, Mandisa Johnson. Today we are having a conversation with Kelly Young-Silva. Can you talk about the industry standards that you helped to establish?
I've seen Atlanta go through a lot. Industry standards are really like, hey, this is a business.
Mm-hmm.
Getting people to understand that there is a difference between a passion and a business. And so I think helping, your Atlanta studios that are there that are really focused on the actors, they want their talent to be the best. I mean,
Right.
we want to be able to compete. So it is somewhat of a competition, right? Not a competition as you should be like, oh, I need to beat you up or whatever, but to realize you're in a competitive field. And if you do something that is lazy, it's not going to get you anywhere. So always, putting more into something than, when you think you're at the breaking point, you're probably at a good point.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably at the place that you need to be. When you feel like that you've just pushed yourself. I always say that at the end of where you've pushed yourself so far that you feel like you can't go any further, on the other side of that is a little gold nugget that you're going to pick up, and it's going to nourish you, and it's going to keep you moving. Standards in self-taping, what a self-tape looks like, because when we first started, nobody really knew. I think all the coaches have really, we've been working with self-taping for so long that we've really learned how to, when we're self-taping, we're in what I'm in right now is pretty much what you look like. So learning how to work this space, without the logo on the back and a nice backdrop, but learning how to work this space and it become the environment of the scene that you're doing, learning how to connect. Before, everybody was auditioning in the room, so they really had, a live reader, learning how to keep yourself energized, even though you're in your own home studio, because you go in front of casting and immediately, you're going to get a surge. But when you're in your home studio, you can be quite lazy. And seeking out, understanding. I think the biggest thing that we've helped people to realize that anything that you're going to gain, you're going to invest into. So knowing what your investment is and knowing how to get that investment back is, and you don't always, people make feature films all the time that they don't get the money back on. They do it because they felt like they had to do it.
Right. So can you share a little bit about the Georgia Artists Initiative?
Okay, so it's the Georgia Arts Initiative. I like artists better though. I'm like,
Okay, I'm sorry.
that's okay. I'm like, we should have done Artist Initiative. I wonder if we did and it was already taken. I don't know. So that's interesting because I inherited that. It used to be the Villa Rica Arts Coalition, which is our little hometown, and I was on the board, and during COVID, the president, she got a really killer job, and she was like, I just don't have time to invest in it. And I was like, I'll do it. So yeah, we've really just gotten to a place because we had some tax things that we had to get straightened out from when they had it. So we've just gotten into the place that we're trying to put things on the calendar and initiate. But the purpose is, it's just like my studio, it's just like Kelly Talk Show. It's just finding ways that the arts can help in the community. I think there's art in everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think, anything that somebody does with meticulous style is art, whether it be wood cutting or writing a book or being a mother. That can be an art. There's an artistry in that. And I think if people realize, and to me, art is your spirit, art is the essence of what you're giving to whatever you're doing. And I think the more that people start to resonate with that, they start realizing I don't have to be at a lull all the time. There's something that happened to us as people within the last 10 years. I think we just got so overloaded that everybody feels so weighted and so down. But if you realize that your energy, what you have, can elevate things a little bit, and everybody just puts a little bit of energy into it instead of being so drab about everything, man, we would move so much easier. And then realizing that what you have, your gift, and I do believe that each of us are, born with certain gifts and a certain thing that we can do in life, that we can give to people. That gift given to your community can elevate your community, just as I've elevated my community in just saying, hey, I want something with the performing arts here. I invested a lot into it, and every bit of my soul, and at the time my young kids, every bit of their soul. I tell people all the time, I'm like, you stand here, there's a price that has been paid for you.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think that you have to, teach people to elevate a little bit, or we're just going to be in a really bad place.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I apologize for that. I don't know where I got artists from, but
no, it's okay. It's okay. I like it. I like it.
I have a couple more questions. So, do you have any advice you would like to share for high school students looking to pursue a career in film and television?
In film and television, you need to get involved with a good studio that's going to help you, first of all, understand the difference in what happens in film and TV than what happens on the stage. If you are coming from stage to film and TV, you need to find somebody that has experience on stage and has, can work both avenues, because there is, there are differences. And they can easily, somebody who has a lot of stage experience but is now in film and TV. Even film and TV are going to be a little bit different depending on, if it's a series that you're doing like The Last Kingdom, that's going to be a lot more like, what is done in a feature film, or Game of Thrones or something like that. But if you're doing a sitcom, that's going to be a different energy than. So getting somebody that really understands different genres, I think, is important, in how to move your energy in those different settings, because you have to have a lot of control on, in film, a lot of times you're pulling things in, things are really personable, they're intimate, whereas stage, it all goes out and you're trying to hit that last person in the last row. Comedy is going to be different. So yeah, just getting in a place that can give you, and not only that, but a place that can give you some connections.
Yeah, I have a side note question. I guess it's like maybe more like a follow-up. Do you feel like more like film and TV and like entertainment business, I know we talked about that, should be in high schools? Because a lot of times people go into theater, but then they may or may not go to college for film and television. But do you think that would be like a great thing to have in high schools?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is, a lot of the high schools, at least where I'm from, my child is crying. At least where I am from, they have film programs, but the interesting thing is that they're not connecting to the theater. And I guess because the theater needs their students, so they're not trying to connect them to the people that are making films. But a lot of the high schools now do have film programs, but they're not acting programs for, they still have to find their own actors. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I find that really kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
I just realized that the high school my middle daughter goes to has film, and I think it's pretty much the same. They have an amazing theater department, but I've never really like heard anything about the film program. I don't know how I found out about it. I might have been reading something. I was like, did you know you had this? I don't even think she knew.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's kind of
And
strange. Go ahead.
well, it has a lot to do with just if somebody starts a film program, it's normally started on a really low budget because your high schools, the big budgets are always going to go to whatever the high school is known for. So if you're big in sports, you're probably not going to be that big in performing arts because all the money is going to sports. So really, you have to get that school energized about whatever program it is, or it's going to stay small.
Okay.
Since the funding's not going to go there.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And I think a lot of the funding at her high school goes to theater because they're amazing. She's joining the musical theater program as a junior next year. So she's really excited about that. So really quickly, do you have any gems, which stands for great educational moments with movers and shakers, that you would like to share?
Any gems? My goodness. Is this advice or is this just like something that I've done that I want to?
It's more like advice.
Okay. I will say that start where you're at. Look at your resource sources. Don't worry so much about what somebody else has because you only have what you have. And what can you use in your surroundings to do what you want to do? I say that, actors, you're an actor as long as you're acting. Getting paid for it is a whole different thing. So, you didn't make your school play, go find some people, do mom style, like my mom said, go find some people, put on a play, invite some people out in your backyard and do it. Nobody has to give you a program to start with. You are your own program and you have your own resources, and yours might turn out to be just the most authentic, cool thing in the world because you worked with what you had. And really, that's so very important to your development period because all of your life, even you think when you have millions of dollars that, you just have everything, but it's still all about your experience and learning to work outside of the box and learning to make something work when it doesn't work. So I would say that's the greatest.
I love it. So how can people connect with you?
Our studio is atlantaactingstudio.com. atlantaactingstudio.com, yes. And it's Words in Motion. We're on Facebook, Words in Motion Actor Studio. We're on Instagram, Words in Motion Actor Studio. The talk show mainly runs, we do have an Instagram page, but I don't really do anything with it. It mainly runs on YouTube, Kelly Talk Show Atlanta, and on Facebook. Our greatest audience is Facebook. And yeah, reach out. You can reach out to me anytime through the website. Really is probably the best way, or through the Facebook pages.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering a few questions for us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this was great. This was great. And thank you for joining us. Until then, I'm Mandisa Johnson. Take care.